Hello and welcome to another episode of Media Dialogues with Storyboard 18. I'm Delshad Irani and we're in conversation with Ajit Mohan, who is the president for Asia Pacific for Snap, one of the largest tech companies in the world. Snap has been scripting an aggressive growth strategy and ambitious vision for India, which is one of the most exciting internet markets in the world. But what is the new Snap story? How is it going to increase user engagement and advertiser interest going forward? To answer some of those questions, we have Ajit today with us here. Hello and welcome to Media Dialogues. Ajit, it's lovely to have you on the show. So Ajit, straight off the bat, let me ask you, what was first on your agenda when you joined Snap? Given that you were coming from Meta after 4 years with the company, what was the vision that you charted out? What are you doing? What's India's role in Snap's global scheme of things?
We have three things to focus on, Delshad. The company now has 200 million Snapchatters in India. That's a large number. Most of that growth has happened in the last 3 or 4 years. So our agenda in India is, number one, continue that growth. There's something special happening here with Snapchat. I think it's important for us to continue that. Second, a lot of the focus in the last 3 to 4 years was on establishing Snapchat's presence in India, making sure that people, especially teens and younger people in the country, understood the proposition of Snapchat. Now that we have the scale that 200 million Snapchatters show in terms of the traction, I think it's time to build a business around it. I think there's a huge opportunity to be useful to marketers and companies who want to use our platform to drive growth. And the third agenda, Delshad, is we, in many ways, are the leaders in AR around the world. And that's a proposition that I'm excited for India as well. We have the opportunity to shape the future of AR, and a lot of that can come out of India.
I'll come back to the point about AR, of course, but what has made the company so bullish about India now? Do you perhaps think that maybe Snap was a little late to the India party? You know, what are some of you're investing in resources and other areas. So what are some of the key investment areas for you? And again, back to the first part of the question, do you think it was late to the India party?
I think if you look at the company, it's a 10-year-old company, not that young, but relatively young compared to a lot of the other global tech platforms. I think we established our first operations here in April of 2019. I don't look at it as, what happened in the past. Was the company late to the party or not? I think what I'm excited about is that in a very short period, we clearly have built a platform that is resonating with people, especially the 18 to 34-year-olds. So I'm excited because we have hit scale in a very short period of time. If you look at 200 million Snapchatters in India, and if that's happened in the last few years, it's probably been one of the fastest growing platforms in the country. So I think the question for me is less about the past and definitely about the future, in terms of when we have so much wind behind our back, when we have so much love amongst the community in India, how do we make sure that we continue the growth, one? Second, how do we make sure that we are able to be valuable to our partners, to creators, to users around the country, but also for businesses? We haven't paid a lot of attention in building the business. All of the energy and the attention has been focused on making sure that the proposition of Snapchat is well understood in India, especially given that it's a very competitive landscape. But the fact that we have gotten to 200 million despite all the competition tells me that we are now ready to extend that proposition to businesses as well. And the other one, I think that's important to call out, Delshad, it's happening in a context where the company has conviction that we need to draw the energy for the next phase of our growth around the world, and especially in a country like India. One of the things that's really been a big hook for me in joining the company, and what I've seen in the last 4 months, is there's really belief in internationalization, starting with Evan himself, who's the CEO and one of the co-founders. There's genuine conviction that the future of Snapchat will be drawn in places like Japan and India and Australia. And that's an exciting one for me. And apart from investing in work around creators, in making sure that we are localizing the product even more so than we have in the last 4 years, we are building a new team in India as well. We are now in conversations to hire a new managing director for India. It's going to be the first managing director for Snapchat in India. So clearly this is the time where...
And you put a LinkedIn post out calling for, I mean, you said you were hiring for India.
And I've been pretty happy to see the people who have responded to that post, as well as the conversations we have been having outside of LinkedIn as well. But I think it tells you sort of where our head is. We have hit scale. The platform continues to grow. There's a lot of love for it. We are now building a business around it. We think there's an exciting opportunity for India truly to be an AR factory for the world. And as the leader in AR and as a company that has the opportunity to shape what the future of AR looks like around the world, I'm excited that a lot of that energy can come from here. And that's why we are building a new team and a new leader here.
So let's get into your sort of reacceleration of your business strategy, or a few of the details, key points in that strategy. For instance, when it comes to monetization or activating the creator community here, what are some of the key points in that strategy for you?
Yeah, I think three things, right? One, the big change is just the focus. So much of the focus has been on building the community here. We haven't spent enough attention on building the business. So just by bringing in the right focus and energy and making sure that our proposition is understood by the marketing community and by businesses who are looking out, who are looking for growth. And it does mean that we have to tell our story. It's a company which looks quite different from many of the other peers and tech platforms. We've always had privacy at the core of the design. It has really been built for a great, healthy messaging experience that's visual and fun between close friends. And that is the strength of the community. That's kind of the reason why we have 750 million people around the world. And that's why we have grown to 200 million strong community in India in a short period of time. I think one of the tasks is, even as we are investing in the team, how do we make sure that that's a story that we tell a lot better to the business community, including marketers? I think the second one, Delshad, is an area of focus for us, both in India and around the world. And Evan has been quite vocal about it over the last few months, is we are building a DR business. A lot of our early success in building a business around our community and adding value to businesses have been around brand marketing. Over the last year in particular, and with a lot of new leaders coming in, as well as putting a lot of energy on building a new ad platform around DR, we are starting to see the early traction on that. And I think just given where the Indian market is, I think that's going to be quite relevant in India as well. And the third one is what we mentioned. A lot of the superpower of the platform is around AR. That's a proposition that's quite compelling for marketers as well. And we believe there's a huge opportunity to build that in India as well.
So since you mentioned marketers and how you're addressing and changing the proposition or developing a new proposition for marketers, how have you seen their sort of perception of Snap evolve over time? From whatever you've gathered, perhaps when you were a competitor, how has the idea of Snap out there in the market evolved from an advertiser's point of view, from a marketer's point of view?
I think there are three parts to it, Delshad. One, and that's been always true, and I saw it from the outside as well, as marketers and the business community and the stakeholders in general have put value on the kind of company that Snapchat has been, that it has made choices prioritizing privacy. It built a platform which was meant for friends to connect with each other. It wasn't solving for you to connect with strangers. It wasn't solving for amplifying content to go viral. And therefore, it was always a safer, more private environment. I think one of the data that gives us a lot of joy, and I think the business community has always instinctively understood, is that 90% of people on Snapchat say they're happy to use the platform. When you talk to people around the world, including in India, they invariably rank Snapchat as the happiest platform that they use. I think that's a proposition which has been at the heart of what Evan and Bobby built right from day one. And I think the business community has valued it. I see that in the nature of the conversations, even in the last 4 months, both with businesses and governments. They understand that Snapchat is different, and it was designed to be different from the beginning. I think the second one is what I mentioned in terms of the new focus on DR, right? I think traditionally businesses have used us for brands. I think we have a lot of effort as we build a platform that we are seeing is increasingly working for performance ads, right? DR ads. I think it is on us to tell that story to marketers as the platform starts delivering a lot more, and we are seeing early signs of that. I think the third thing is specific to India, Delshad, which is given a lot of the focus in the last 4 years has been on building the community, we haven't invested enough in building deep relationships with businesses, and that's what I want to change.
Hold on to that thought, Ajit. We'll be back after a quick commercial break, and we'll find out how Snap is building a business in India. Welcome back. You're watching Media Dialogues with Storyboard 18, and we're in conversation with Ajit Mohan, who is the president for Asia Pacific for Snap. So you mentioned privacy, of course, and then you also spoke about targeted advertising and how you want to grow that, and personalization. Do you see that? And again, you can perhaps put your industry hat on as well as the president of Snap for APAC. But do you see that as a challenge then, where you have to sort of protect your users' privacy, but at the same time deliver those ads and effectiveness for marketers and advertisers?
Yeah, I think there are two things here, right? I think one, when you look at sort of the proposition of Snapchat and some of the principles around which the co-founders built the company, the privacy proposition is at the heart of it. So everything comes afterwards, right? The idea of not retaining a lot of data, the idea of privacy by design, the idea of you don't open up to a feed of content with a lot of amplification of viral content. All of that is at the core of the proposition, and that's why the community loves Snapchat. So I don't think that changes at all. And if you look at the last 10 years, even through many business challenges, that has not been compromised, and that continues to be at the heart of the company's proposition to people around the world. At the same time, advertising is the main source of revenue for us as a company. There is a subscription product, Snapchat Plus, that was launched a few months ago, and that has increasingly had a lot of traction. But the core of it is still advertising. I think the proposition is, if there are a lot of people between 13 to 34, and especially 18 to 34 on the platform, and they're not anywhere else, obviously there's an opportunity for us to connect the dots between our community and businesses who can benefit from engaging with that community. And I think that is at the heart of the advertiser proposition we have. And as I mentioned before, even in the context of the principles of privacy that we won't compromise on, within those constraints, we are still building a DR business that we believe can be valuable to advertisers, especially because a lot of people are here who are not on other platforms.
How is Snap deploying AI to better its features, products, whatever it may be? And just let's zoom out a little bit and get your view. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of fear, but there's a lot of excitement and curiosity as well. And we've all seen, ChatGPT in action. We've tried it, we've used it. So how are you seeing it? What's your view? What's your take on AI?
Yeah, I think three things, Delshad. One, it's an exciting space. And just to elaborate what you were hinting at, we introduced My AI. And the best way to think about it is it's kind of like a personal sidekick to a Snapchatter. We introduced it a few months ago. We introduced it in India last week. And we're excited about that proposition, about bringing the power of AI to the 750 million Snapchatters around the world, and especially in India. And I think we're excited about how that can help people learn and discover new things and engage in healthy conversations. It's still early. One of the things to call out, because I think we are in the middle of a conversation around the world on, what does the future look like? Even as the technology is exciting, and we know that it has the ability to positively change multiple industries, there is obviously an active conversation on being aware of the downsides of a new emerging technology like this. One of the things that we are committed to is making sure that we are being very thoughtful about how we deploy this technology and making sure that we are really looking out for the learnings in terms of how people actually use the technology. In the last few months that we have launched My AI, one of the numbers that stands out for us is 99.5% of the conversations that people are having with My AI is completely consistent with our community guidelines, right? So that tells you that people have the ability to leverage a new tool like this responsibly. And the 0.5% is invariably a select set of users who are actively trying to game the conversation to see what would come back, right? And some part of it is lyrics of songs, right? But at the same time, we recognize that it's early and that we, for a company that has had values and not just regulation at the heart of a lot of choices that we have made that is right for the community, that will continue to be the lens for My AI as well. I think the framework that the government in India is looking at, I think is the right one. I think they've said that they want to leverage AI as a positive force for change. They're not looking to constrain that, but equally, I think, I'm sure they'll be on the watch to see how this evolves. And I think as a company that has placed the community and making the right choices for the community at the heart of how we have thought about product, I think we have an advantage because I think we are a company that the community can trust to make the right responsible choices for both India and for the world.
Have you tried ChatGPT?
Absolutely, and one of the things that I've used it for is kind of drafting emails. I found that with the right context that it's able to give back communication that is quite compelling. I'm trying to nudge my 9-year-old to use it to learn, to find answers, and I think that's kind of the potential of this, right? I mean that there's huge potential to shape this for discovery and learning, and I think that can be quite revolutionary, especially for a country that is as young as ours. And at the same time, I think all of us just need to be on the watch out, and definitely we are committed to that as a company.
Given everything that we are seeing in the world today, there's inflationary pressures, there's economic headwinds, there's a growing intensity. What is your outlook for the year ahead?
I think hard to kind of predict, make a prediction on the economy. As you mentioned, sort of a lot is happening in the world at the moment, and probably way above my pay grade to make an economic prediction. I think we are focused on doing the right work for our community in India and around the world. I think there's a lot of things that's working for us. I think our proposition of a fun, healthy, private messaging environment is really having traction with communities around the world. In India, there are products like Spotlight, which is our short form video platform that in particular is having a lot of traction. And I think to the beginning of our conversation, for me, both in Asia and in particular India, a lot of my focus is to make sure that we, irrespective of what is happening in the macro environment, some may play to our advantage, some may not be helpful. Irrespective of that, that we keep our eye firmly focused on making sure that we deliver value to the community, because we have a distinctive proposition that seems to be quite different from anyone else in the tech world. That we have this amazing opportunity to shape AR, including in India, and that we build a business around it and make sure that we have value to add to the business community as well.
Let me just get one more question in, because you mentioned earlier, of course, that you're hiring a lot more. There's the investments going into sort of putting the resources in place, but we've also seen sort of the year start with mass layoffs. For instance, there's the funding winter, big tech in trouble. So this rejig that you're working on in terms of people, what roles are you hiring for? What were some of the roles that have sort of been are perhaps not as important as early, and what's happening now?
We're hiring across the board, Delshad, and we have a content and growth and partnership team that's been here for the last few years. We'll continue to invest behind that. We have people around the world who's really spending time on how to localize the product for India, and that work will continue. And then we are building a business team where we haven't invested enough in building that business team, and we're building that out. And I'm very optimistic. And you are going to see fairly aggressive hiring from us, both over the next few weeks and months and over the next few years. And connecting the dots across all of these is the hiring for a new leader for India. So we are, I know the context of the economy could be different, but we could not be more optimistic about India. And we are definitely at a stage where we are ramping up our presence in India across the board.
Thank you, Ajit. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Delshad.